Evil Dead Rise comes out this week, so we are celebrating by going all the way back to the beginning to see which is better between the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. What's going on, guys and gals, and welcome to Good Real Hunting. It's your boy Brad. The Brett Man is right over there. Today, we are doing Slash It Out, like I said, with Evil Dead, the classic, the original Evil Dead movie versus Evil Dead 2, the cult classic that people love these days. Freaking Bruce Campbell and all of his sexiness we're going to talk about here today. We're going to have a lot of fun with this matchup, Birdie.
Man, there's only one word to describe this matchup, man. Awesome. This matchup is going to be, oh, who am I freaking kidding? This matchup is going to be groovy.
That's what I'm liking. That's what I want to hear, dude. I don't want to hear that awesome stuff.
But before we begin, two things. Thing number one, we want to hear from you guys of what y'all think about Slash It Out. So let us know this particular matchup. Let us know in that comment section down below. It always helps us out and always gets that discussion rolling. And thing number two, Brad, would you promise me not to be subjective to this particular matchup? Because I know you went to that badass freaking showing of Evil Dead 2 with your boy Bruce Campbell there. So I want to make sure you're going to give the Evil Dead a fair chance.
It's going to have a fair chance, man. I have a lot of love for both these movies. It's going to be a fun matchup. Now, before we get into the categories and all that stuff, these movies are actually pretty similar. There's really not a lot to compare except from, some of the basic stuff that these movies bring to us. So we're going to have fun with it. But yeah, man, also stay tuned next week or, sometime late next week or the week after. We're going to be doing Evil Dead Rise versus Evil Dead from 2013. That's going to be a fun matchup as well. A lot of Evil Dead stuff coming right around the corner, man. But I'm ready to get started in this matchup, my friend.
Let's go with the freaking tail to tape here. And so, Brad, man, I'm going to go ahead and let you go first, man. What is the first thing that just really draws your attention?
Man, how low budget Evil Dead is for the amount of effects and everything they brought to, for us in that movie, all the carnage and stuff like that. $350,000. Keep in mind, this came out a few years after Halloween. Similar budget, but a lot more gruesome freaking carnage in that movie. So it's cool to see what they were able to do with that. The scores for these movies, too, critics and audience both love both of these movies, which is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a surprise because they're well made, but man, it's awesome to see that.
This was a freaking game changer, especially the first Evil Dead, bringing more serious meaning to what we call the cabin fever horror aspect of the genre. Just cabin in the woods or just being in the woods, man. So numbers are all great, and I've stated before that freaking this franchise is definitely one of the greatest horror franchises out there.
Yeah, man, when it comes to consistency and whatnot, yeah, it doesn't get much better. All these movies are so enjoyable, and they all have different things about them that really stand out. And you know what? I mean, one thing, like, we're not really comparing the directing today because they're both done by Sam Raimi, but they're both done very well. I just want to give them both credit for doing a lot of things, state of the art at the time, kind of game-changing, revolutionizing, some of the horror things that we saw at that time and setting up a lot of the stuff we saw later in the 80s with camera angles and things like that. All the creepy atmosphere you could handle. Both of these movies does that really well.
Yeah, man, we're gonna be these two movies definitely freaking changed the game in the horror genre. So, Brad, what do you want to talk about first, my friend?
Let's talk about the story, man. I mean, that's a good place to start, right? Evil Dead kind of gives us that classic, like friends going out to the cabin for the weekend and shit hitting the fan kind of storyline. But this is really kind of the first time that happened. So it was really kind of special in that regard. So I appreciate it for that. And I like it. It's creepy. They bring us out to that, desolate cabin in the middle of nowhere, actually in the middle of Tennessee. Shout out there, Morristown, right? And I love the way that it plays, the whole thing with the woods, like playing against them so they can't leave and all that fun stuff is good too, like with the bridge going out and the woods, freaking doing crazy things to people throughout. But man, yeah, I really do dig that storyline. Evil Dead 2 kind of plays off that Halloween 2 kind of deal where it kind of picks up where the first one leaves off and he's continuing that same night. I know it's kind of funky the way it starts, but it's because they didn't have the rights to the first movie. So they pretty much had to recreate the whole first movie in the first 10 minutes there and dig right into it. But yeah, ideally it's supposed to be the first night. But yeah, it's just him kind of surviving through the night. So it's a much more simplistic story, but I think I got to give the edge to the Evil Dead just because it had more of a story, with the brother or the sister being there, the girlfriend, all of them getting possessed. It just has more of a story to it.
And I even feel like I heard a story out there that this The second Evil Dead movie is what Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell originally wanted to make, but due to budgeting restraints, they could not reach the level of Evil Dead 2. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think it actually works better from a story perspective because, like, I know we'll talk about this later, like horror versus comedy and all that. It's just Evil Dead 2 kind of went down for me. Like, there's not much of a story there. It's just freaking Ash doing Ash crazy things. While in the first one, you just get this not like good core of friends and all that, just trapped in the cabin with what we have no idea what these freaking creatures are, but we now know to them to be deadites and all that, and just like, but just during that time you don't know what they are, and just to me that's more scarier and sets up for a better story throughout the entire movie. Unlike the second one, I felt that's just like Ash just doing bonker things, man. There's not much of a story to tell.
Well, Bertie, well, you mentioned it. Let's go ahead and talk about the horror comedy aspect of these.
I love that middle finger.
Yeah, just basically the tone differences between the two movies. You know, Evil Dead 2 brings in a lot more comedy, whereas Evil Dead was pretty much a straight horror flick. So what do you tell me what you think about those?
Oh man, the classic question for the Evil Dead franchise that always gets asked. Are you a serious Evil Dead fan, or are you a comedy one? And it all is about personal taste of what you want your Evil Dead franchise to be. For me, I think this franchise works better in the serious horror, in a serious tone, like going more towards the horror roots and everything. And plus, I have to say roots in there, or the freaking Evil Dead trees are gonna freaking get me, man. And I can't let them get me, man. They do horrible things. But it's just a comedy for me. Just really just takes the mood out of it away from me, man. Just the Deadites I don't treat as seriously, even though they look great. But it's just, I just can't treat it seriously. But when we bring that serious tone to them, to me, they're a lot scarier. They're a lot more creepier. So again, I'm going to give another advantage to the Evil Dead on this.
Yeah, man. I do appreciate the horror aspect the first movie brings us. You know, it's creepy. Like, the atmosphere is bar none. You go out there, you got nice fog, you got the cameras going across the ponds and all that stuff like that. The great sound. Both of these movies actually have great sound design with the wind, you know, throughout the movie, which I think is really good. I just have so much fun with Evil Dead 2, though. It's just the comedy that they add in. I don't think it's over the top. There's a couple scenes where, you know, it's flat out comedy, but it's always, it still has a lot of creepy moments in it too. I don't think it's like Army of Darkness where it goes a little bit too far in the comedy zone, although I still love that movie too. It's such a blast. It's such a good time. It's still it balances them out pretty well. There's a lot of good jump scares. There's a lot of good like Bruce Campbell, when he's, you know, decked out as the Deadite guy, he looks creepy as shit. Like he looks scary. There's something to say about freaking having to chop off your damn hand because you're slapping yourself and hitting yourself in the face with plates and breaking all kinds of stuff, and the hand's crawling over there to the knife. And he said, no, not today, man. He chops it off himself. So I love it for that, man. Not to mention that, remember the Farewell to Arms book he puts on top of the bucket when the hand's crawling away? Like, it's just creative, like fun stuff like that just makes this movie so unique, I think. And really the same, I mean, I think, yeah, the first movie leans more towards horror, but even some of the stuff towards the end has still kind of got that same vibe to it, some of that goofiness. You know, you got light bulbs filling up with blood and him getting all squirted. But dude, another thing I love about Evil Dead 2 is the use of blood and how many gallons they dumped on Bruce. Coming out the wall, you know, freaking coming out when that dude gets chopped up in the basement from the other Deadite, man. It's just a fucking bloodbath. It's just fun, man. I love it for that. I think it's just more entertaining because of it. Is it the first horror comedy? Like, maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It
all depends. I'm sure there were some horror comedies, but this one was like one of the first true great ones, I would think.
I think so too, man. So for that, I gotta give this one to Evil Dead 2. I really appreciate the tone in this one.
Absolutely. And dude, we brought up our boy Ash, man, so I figured that is a great transition, man, to our boy Ash, one of the actual freaking Mount Rushmore of final guys in the horror genre, man. So Brad, I know you saw your boy Bruce Campbell freaking again seeing that awesome Evil Dead 2, so you take it away on this one.
I'll do it. And this category is mostly about Ash because he's kind of two different characters in this, even though it's kind of the same. But I can also kind of loop in the other characters in this category as well, because the way I feel about Ash is kind of the same I feel about the other characters too. I think in the first Evil Dead movie, all the characters are pretty vanilla. There's really not much to them, Ash included. Like, he stands out above the rest of them for sure. You know, as far as his persona and stuff like that. Even, you know, this is before he got big, but yeah, I mean, he still stands out. But the rest of the characters, I don't even know their names. Like, they're really kind of weak. And I know they kind of did some things to set up some emotional things with him and his sister and stuff like that, which I thought was good. But dude, when he cranks in Evil Dead 2, man, this is when he not only is this where Ash is born, this might be where Bruce Campbell himself is actually born, man. This is really where he takes that role and just leans into it, man. He's doing crazy shit. He has to carry the first 40 minutes of this movie by himself for the most part in this cabin, and he does a damn good job of it, because I think it's just really the most entertaining part of the whole movie. When he's running around, like the openings, chopping freaking heads off with shovels, he's getting kicked out of the freaking house and flying across the air, and like we mentioned, his battle against his hand and how that all plays out, and really just set up something special. So definitely Evil Dead 2 in this category as well.
All right, man. Hell to the freaking yeah, dude. But man, Ash, I've always respect Ash like being one of the top final guys of all time, and man, he freaking like drove home with both of these movies being the big standouts. Here's just where it's different for me. With the original Evil Dead, it's kind of like, honestly, like Chucky and Charles played the original. They didn't know possibly necessarily what they had with that particular character, but in the second one, they evolved that character and took it to a place that it deserved to go. And that's kind of how I treat Ash. In the original, I don't feel like they had like any true direction with him. Pretty sure they didn't really have people think they will fall in love with the Ash character. I thought most of them will go with the female cast members, or even Scott, the character Scott in the original Evil Dead, but definitely Ash won that battle. So in the second one, they definitely developed him a lot more. So I'm easily like, between the two movies, the Evil Dead 2 definitely has the better Ash, and it has the best Ash we've ever seen in the entire Evil Dead franchise.
Shoot, yeah, man. That's when he starts giving his one-liners too. Remember they're reading the book. They're like, "Oh, this guy came from the future and saved humanity or whatever." He's like, "Well, he must have done a shitty job or whatever." And then obviously the groovy thing and all that fun stuff. It's just, yeah, dude, it's epic, man. I love it. But yeah, man, that's Ash in a nutshell. But yeah, I mean, alongside Ash, though, there's Deadites, man. So let's hear about these guys, because they have kind of a different approach for both movies. What do you think about those guys, Birdie?
Oh man, this is tough, because again, with a higher budget, you could easily like clean up a lot of the messes that the original had. But I'll be honest with you, man, the original Deadites to me are a lot more scarier, because they had to pretty much work with a $350,000 budget. So like they have to use those freaking like contacts. Like they can only put them in at 15 minutes at a time, or they'll really damage your eyes. But dude, it's just simple stuff like that, and simple makeup is what brings like a more real approach to these particular Deadites in the original. The second one, definitely with a higher budget, they look a lot better, but I just give me those freaking original ones, man. Especially when they start using that claymation, man. Like, I know it looks so bad now, but I just imagine yourself back in the early 80s, man, looking at that claymation. I bet it's just like, wow, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So like, just with the Deadites, I take the original.
Yeah, man, I actually have to agree with you here, man. They just look so much creepier in the first movie. They do look better in the second movie. They look more realistic, but there's something just really odd about the ones in the first movie that really just make you feel like it gets under your skin a little bit. They're a little bit weird looking. The makeup was really effective and creepy. Now, I will say, I will give credit to the Ash Deadite and Evil Dead 2. Again, I think that was outstanding. That looked fantastic. That might be my favorite of all of them, but overall, I will take the bunch of ones that we get in the first one, because I thought what they were able to do with those, man, freaking spooky. Remember, and they do the singing there too, all that weird stuff, like we're gonna get you, all that crazy stuff. They do a little bit in the second one too, but There's just something freaking creepy about it, man. So I actually am going to go with you on this one. I'm going to go with the Evil Dead.
Now, you brought up a good point too. It's just like I feel like with the original Evil Dead Deadites, they definitely play more sadistic mind games in that one versus in the second one. They're just, to me, at times a lot more comedic.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. And yeah, alongside those, man, comes kills, comes carnage, comes all that. Look at these guys, man. Like that one on the left is exactly what we're talking about. Just freaking creepy. Kills and carnage, though, man. Let's talk about some of these effects and things like that in these two movies. And this is actually a tough one too, because I think Evil Dead 2 has a lot of great moments. Right there in that that little picture was the chainsaw to the head, which is epic. It's really effective. But yeah, again, man, the Evil Dead, the first one, there's just so much carnage in that third act, dude. There's limbs getting chopped off. There's freaking, like you mentioned, the stop motion and stuff like that is pretty intense. It looks a little funky, but also in kind of a creepy way. So I like it for that, man. That one person was completely chopped up. All the limbs were gone, and they're just laying there with a pile of limbs on the floor, and people are getting thrown in the fire and all kinds of stuff. So I think I'm going to go with the Evil Dead here as well.
Oh, dude, yeah, definitely the first one, and it's not really necessarily a kill. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for most memorable moment with the original Evil Dead. But for the kills, I will definitely say Evil Dead 2 has conquered the kills in this one, just for the fact that they had a higher budget, so they can make a lot of those kills a lot more effective. But when we're talking about freaking carnage, man, I feel like that's the best representation of this franchise. It's the carnage from the Deadites. Definitely give me the original one, man. With the freaking mind games, the freaking white spewing things and all that, dude.
Oh,
dude, it's just freaking crazy, man. And again, I'm gonna go with the original Evil Dead, man.
Yeah, I am too, man. Those grits, man. It looked like they had grits pulling out of their freaking sleeves, man. Well, let's talk about the most memorable moment, like you said, of these two movies, man. What you got in these things, man?
All right, with the original Evil Dead, the thing that I always think of first is that damn number 2 pencil going right into the freaking Achilles, man. Oh my, dude, that makes me cringe every damn time. And of course, there's the scene that, yeah, I'm sure the Woods got their hard on it. It's that freaking thing in the middle of the woods, man. It's not a joke. It's definitely very uncomfortable to watch if you can't stomach those particular scenes. But it's definitely one you definitely remember after watching the original Dead. So both of those scenes to me are memorable for the original Evil Dead, but definitely Evil Dead 2, man. Freaking Ash's line of and just getting that whole chainsaw put together on his hand. That, to me, that's just what makes this entire franchise.
It's epic, dude. Yeah, that's what they call an evening wood. Anyway, in the first movie, I'm going to go ahead and say that that scene when they're playing cards or whatever, and the Deadites over there, and they're like, oh, ace of spades, 4 of hearts, and then
two spades, jack of diamonds, jack of clubs.
That's just one of the most effective kind of jump scares of this movie. It's just really it's up there with that you're all going to die tonight, and the other Evil Dead movie from 2013. Really good stuff there. In the second movie, I got to go with the freaking Duke session in the kitchen. This is better than Halloween Ends, Michael versus Laurie. This is Bruce Campbell versus himself. Like, it's definitely the way to go, man. He's sitting there freaking smacking himself in the head with plates and shit, like I said earlier, and then that ends with him chopping his hand off. So yeah, that to me is just always what I think of. It really kind of makes this movie what I think about.
Dude, hell yeah, man. And another thing I want to mention too with the original, just the blood dripping all over the walls and into the light bulb. To me, the cinematography of that particular shot is so outstanding to watch.
Yeah, dude. As is the scene where the hand flips off Ash too.
Oh my god. Dude, it's so freaking great.
So yeah, man, let's go overall thoughts, ratings. I guess you went first. I'll go ahead and talk about these. Obviously, both of these I love quite a bit. I think, like you said earlier, it's one of the best, most consistent franchises out there. Starts off with a bang with these two movies. They both bring very different things for you to enjoy in a good way. The first movie, with its low budget charm and all that stuff, it's just really something you can appreciate as when you're into filmmaking and stuff like that. It's like, man, they really did a lot with nothing. Second movie just cranks the fun up to 11. We have a good time with it. I think we didn't. I think I gave more categories to the Evil Dead tonight, but one category we didn't really bring up is which one's just most enjoyable, and that to me is Evil Dead 2. So I do prefer that movie. It's one I rewatch a little bit more, just because it's just it's just a fun time. You can have some beers with Bruce Campbell. You can sit back and you can just have a good time.
I knew
with it.
You wouldn't be freaking fair.
But dude, both like the Evil Dead, I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 4.25 actually, and Evil Dead 2, I'll give it 4.5.
All right, man. I'll go with ratings first because, like, I am the complete opposite of you. Give me the original Dead at the 4.5 and the Evil Dead 2 at 4.25, man. Like I stated in the horror comedy section of this, I am a more serious Evil Dead fan, so to me, that just has more effect on the franchise to me. But I love how a franchise can offer you so many directions to go while staying at one consistent story, man. So I give this franchise a lot of credit for that, and I give a lot of credit to freaking Bruce Campbell for taking one hell of a beating throughout both of these movies, man. He freaking cheat teeth, lost teeth, like he just went through the gunner, man, of both of these movies. So I do appreciate him for that. But the original Evil Dead, man, is just a freaking classic again. Definitely changed the game in the freaking cabin in the woods type feel horror movie genre. I think he even created that particular kind of genre, because you see movies now like Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever, and so much more. It's all thanks to the original Evil Dead. But what you brought up, Brad, was a great point. It's that the Evil Dead 2 could be considered as the first true great horror comedy. It's not my cup of tea, necessarily, but the original Evil Dead is, to me, what defines the Evil Dead franchise for me. What do you all think, man? We'll definitely pull out a freaking poll in the community section, so tune out to that for the next couple of days as you watch this video. And more importantly, what do you all think about this particular Slash It Out? What movie do you think is the better Evil Dead movie? The original Evil Dead, or The Evil Dead, or Evil Dead 2? Let us know in the comment section down below so we could get that discussion rolling.
Hell yeah, man. And hang out with us next week when we talk about The Evil Dead, right? Evil Dead versus Evil Dead Rise. Going to be a lot of fun, man. Can't wait for this movie. It's going to be fun to talk about. And of course, if you want to help us find a good reels, all of our links to our socials are down in the description down below, including the Patreon link.
Yeah, absolutely. Until then, hopefully you enjoy Evil Dead Rise this week. Be sure to vote in the community poll, because without you guys, these streams will not be as, or these particular videos will not be as popular as they are. So keep up the great work and voting on your favorite matchups, and we will see you for that next Slash It Out.
Shoot yeah, man. And stay groovy.
Oh, damn, the hand's back. In the stream. End it.
It's the
button. Hit the button.
No!